Judge Raymond Callahan, a man in his early 60s with silver hair and a stern posture sharpened by decades on the bench, sat behind a raised wooden platform. Everything about him said authority. He was known for his no-nonsense approach, especially with juvenile cases, which had grown more frequent in recent years. Callahan glanced up as Evan and Lily took their seats at the defendant's table. Case number 22 to 418. The bailiff announced, State of Ohio versus Evan Harper. The judge looked over the rim of his glasses. Mr. Harper, he said, voice clipped, this is your third appearance this year. Trespassing, vandalism, and now shoplifting. A low murmur rippled through the small audience. Evan clenched his jaw. Callahan tapped his pen. I have to admit, I'm beginning to wonder if you enjoy visiting my courtroom. Evan straightened. His heart hammered. Don't react, he told himself. Stick to the plan. Your Honor, he began quietly, I'd like to... Judge Callahan held up a hand. Young man, your court-appointed attorney isn't here yet. You don't get to make statements without counsel. A snicker escaped from somewhere behind them. Cedar Grove regulars. Older men who came to watch court like it was a morning television show. Lily shot a horrified look at her son. Where's Miss Ridley? She whispered. The judge checked the clock. Honestly? She's late. Again. Callahan leaned forward. It seems your lawyer doesn't take your case very seriously, Mr. Harper. Not that I blame her. He said it flatly, a bit dismissively. A hot flush crept up Evan's neck. The judge thought he was a joke. Everyone did, but not for long. Actually, Your Honor, Evan said, voice steadying. I'll be representing myself today. Dead silence. Then laughter, real loud, incredulous laughter, from the public seating. Judge Callahan blinked. His eyebrows shot up. Representing yourself? He repeated. Mr. Harper, you are 15. I'm aware. And you believe you are capable of handling a legal defense in a criminal proceeding? Yes, sir. Callahan pinched the bridge of his nose. Son, this is a court of law, not a school project. Where is your mother? Did she approve this? Lily stood, wringing her hands. Your Honor, I don't know what's going on. Evan didn't tell me he was going to this. She looked terrified. Evan wished he could spare her the stress. But he needed to do this. Not just for the charges. Those were small potatoes. He needed to prove something. Mostly to himself. Callahan turned his attention back to Evan. Mr. Harper, this is not a game. No, Your Honor, Evan said gently. I know it's not. The judge leaned back in his chair. You'll have to demonstrate competency before I consider this. Tell me, what qualifications do you believe you have? Evan took out a thick folder, its edges worn from handling. He set it on the table, opened it methodically, and slid forward a typed document. I've studied every case related to my charge. I've also reviewed Ohio juvenile criminal statutes, procedural rules, and precedent from multiple rulings in this district. He paused. I passed the constitutional law certificate course online, with a perfect score. Online courses, the judge said, unimpressed. And mock trial, Evan added, national champion division. I was a lead attorney almost every round. Callahan frowned. He looked at Evan more closely now. The boy didn't look arrogant, just earnest, almost painfully so. The judge had dealt with overconfident teens before. This didn't feel like that. Mock trial, Callahan said slowly. At Cedar Grove High? No, I do it independently. I attend tournaments virtually. That's how it works now since COVID. I compete against high schoolers across the country. And you win. Evan hesitated. Every time. Callahan wasn't sure if he should laugh, scold him, or be intrigued. Unlikely for a Tuesday morning hearing. Mr. Harper, he said, this is still real life, not pretend lawyering. The prosecution has a licensed attorney. A good one. And if you lose... Then I lose, Evan said quietly. But at least it'll be me failing, not someone who doesn't show up. Lily's face softened. Pain flickered in her eyes. The judge exhaled heavily. All right, I'll humor this. For now, I'll allow a preliminary competency check. A ripple of surprise filled the room. But, Callahan added, The first misstep, the first sign you're out of your depth, I will halt this and appoint counsel, late or not. Evan nodded. Fair. Just then, the courtroom doors creaked open. Assistant District Attorney Mary Ann Blake, carrying a stack of files and a cup of gas station coffee, rushed in. Sorry for the delay, Your Honor, she said. Traffic on Route 9 was... She stopped when she noticed Evan standing at the defense table alone. Where's Miss Ridley? Callahan gestured toward Evan. Apparently, the defendant wishes to represent himself. Blake blinked. Himself. Yes. Blake set down her files. Your Honor, the state objects on the grounds that the defendant is a child. Objection noted, Callahan said, and overruled. Pending competency review. Blake stared at the judge like he'd suggested replacing the American flag with circus bunting. He's 15. Callahan shrugged. He's also apparently better prepared than his own attorney. Evan tried not to smile. The judge folded his hands. Mr. Harper, let's begin the competency test. I will ask you several questions regarding legal procedure and constitutional protections. Answer clearly. I'm ready, Evan said. Blake crossed her arms, skeptical. Judge Callahan lifted his pen. First question, Mr. Harper. Explain your Sixth Amendment rights in the context of this trial. Evan spoke calmly. The Sixth Amendment guarantees my right to counsel, which includes a right to waive counsel if done knowingly and intelligently. It also gives me the right to confront witnesses, obtain favorable testimony, and receive a speedy and public trial by impartial jury, though in juvenile court the jury part doesn't apply. Blake raised an eyebrow. Not bad. Second, Callahan said, what is the burden of proof in a criminal case? Beyond a reasonable doubt. The state must prove every element of the charge to that standard. And the burden is on whom? The prosecution. This time, even the judge hid a small smile behind his hand. Third question, Callahan said, warming to the challenge. Describe the primary elements of petty theft under Ohio law. Evan didn't flinch. Purpose to deprive the owner of property, taking control of the property without consent, and value of the item being less than $1,000. Blake unconsciously nodded. Perfect. Fourth, Callahan said. Explain hearsay. Evan's answer flowed effortlessly. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted, generally inadmissible unless it fits an exception, like excited utterance or present-sense impression. Blake lowered her arms. Callahan sat back, genuinely stunned. This was beyond impressive. This kid was better prepared than some first-year associates he'd seen. The judge sighed. Very well. The court finds the defendant meets minimum competency requirements to represent himself. Against my better judgment, the request is granted. Another murmur. Blake whispered under her breath. Unbelievable. Evan swallowed. It was official. He would be facing a professional prosecutor alone. The judge called a short recess so the prosecution could review the situation. Lily pulled Evan aside near the hallway vending machines. She looked at him, really looked at him, the way a mother does when she realizes her child has been living a whole separate world she never knew. Why didn't you tell me you were studying all this law stuff? She asked. Because Evan shoved his hands in his pockets. You're tired. You're already working 2 jobs. I didn't want to add anything else. She touched his cheek. Her hands were cold. Evan, honey, you don't have to protect me from everything. He didn't respond. Because he did. Their family had been struggling since his dad died 3 years earlier. A heart condition no one knew he had. One moment he was there, fixing the leaky kitchen sink, and the next moment he was gone. Evan had always been smart. Too smart, his middle school teachers used to say. Gifted, precocious, accelerated learner, all those labels. But when his dad died, the spark dimmed, his grades slipped, then crashed. No one understood why the kid who once devoured books suddenly stopped turning in homework. No one except his mother. She watched him change. Quiet, withdrawn, angry at the world in ways he couldn't put into words. Getting into trouble felt easier than explaining. He couldn't feel anything at all some days. Now, Seeing him stand here trying to defend himself, trying to take responsibility, she felt a swell of pride mixed with fear. "Promise me," she said softly, "if this gets too hard, you'll ask for help." "I promise," he whispered. But both of them knew he might not keep that promise. Everyone returned to the courtroom. Evan stood at the defense table, trying to hold himself tall. Lily sat behind him, praying silently. Blake opened the state's case. "Your Honor, the facts are simple. On October 29th, the defendant was caught leaving a local convenience store with a pair of headphones valued at $29.99 without paying. Store security detained him and called police. The state intends to prove the theft was intentional." She motioned to her first witness. "The prosecution calls Mr. Jerry Dalton." An older man in a polo shirt and khakis took the stand. The store manager. He told the story predictably. Evan browsed in the electronics aisle, slipping the headphones in his pocket, leaving without approaching the cashier. Then Blake turned to Evan. "Your witness." Evan stood, palms damp. He walked slowly toward the witness stand. "Mr. Dalton," he began, "you said I placed the headphones in my pocket?" "Yes." "And you're certain it was me? The cameras were working that day." Dalton nodded. "They were. May I approach the bench?" Evan asked. Callahan gestured him forward. Blake looked wary. Evan placed a printed screenshot on the judge's desk. The store surveillance image from the police report. Grainy. Blurry. "Your Honor," he said, voice steady. "This is the only camera footage the store provided. You'll notice the figure is wearing a dark hoodie, baggy jeans, and sneakers. This is a low-resolution angle from above. You cannot see the face clearly." Blake objected. "The point is irrelevant. The store manager identified him." Evan countered immediately. "Your Honor, the witness admitted he did not observe me directly. He watched through a security monitor." Callahan tilted his head. "Mr. Dalton?" Dalton cleared his throat. Yes. I was in the office. I viewed it from the screen." Evan turned to the witness. "Is it true multiple students from Cedar Grove High wear dark hoodies and jeans?" Dalton shrugged. "Probably. And that the store is busy after school hours?" "Yes." "And you did not personally stop me. A security guard did." Dalton nodded. Blake narrowed her eyes. Evan wasn't trying to prove he didn't steal. He was undermining the reliability of the identification. A real defense tactic. Evan continued. No further questions. Callahan watched him return to the table. Something was happening here. Something unusual. Something impressive. After the state rested, the judge looked at Evan. "Would you like to present your case now?" Evan took a breath. "Yes, Your Honor. I'll be calling one witness." Blake's brows lifted. He hadn't submitted any witness list. Who could he possibly? "I call my mother," Evan said. Lily froze. "Evan, are you sure?" He nodded. "I need them to understand." Slowly, she made her way to the stand. Evan approached her, trying to steady his trembling voice. "Mom," he began, "how have things been at home?" Since he passed." Lily swallowed. The courtroom felt smaller now. "It's been hard," she whispered. "Financially, emotionally, we've been trying our best." "Have I helped?" "With my little brother, with things around the house?" She nodded. "More than any kid your age should have to." He paused, eyes glistening. "Mom, did you know I was at the store that day to buy headphones for Ben? For his speech therapy?" A few gasps. Even Blake leaned forward. Ben, Evan's 8-year-old brother, struggled with auditory processing disorder. He needed specific noise-reducing headphones for concentration. Lily covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. She had no idea. Evan turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I didn't steal them. I had them in my pocket because my hands were full. I had snacks, Gatorade, lunch supplies. I went back to the shelf to compare brands. I must have been distracted when I walked out." He spread his hands helplessly. "I wasn't trying to break the law. I was trying to help my brother." The courtroom fell silent. Judge Callahan stared at him, something softening behind his stern expression. Blake tapped her pen, conflicted. This wasn't the straightforward case she expected. Callahan cleared his throat. "Mr. Harper," he said, "please return to your table." Evan sat, heart-thumping. The judge folded his hands, thinking. The courtroom waited. Finally, he spoke. "I've seen many young defendants come through this room, many with excuses, many with stories. But rarely have I seen one with such preparation, honesty, and responsibility." He paused. "Young man, you're extraordinary." Evan stared at him, stunned. Callahan continued. "Given the questionable identification, your testimony, and your mother's, I find reasonable doubt exists. The charge is dismissed." A collective breath released in the room. Lily sobbed softly, relief washing over her. Evan bowed his head, overcome, but Callahan wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he said, leaning forward, "I want to make something clear. You have remarkable potential, legal potential, intellectual potential, but you're also still a child. A brilliant one, yes, but still growing, still grieving, still finding your place in the world." Evan felt his throat tighten. Callahan looked directly at him. "Use that mind of yours. Use it for good. And don't you ever walk into this courtroom as a defendant again. Understood?" "Yes, Your Honor," Evan whispered. Outside the courthouse, the cold air felt different, sharper, cleaner, almost forgiving. Lily wrapped her arms around Evan. "You scare me today," she said, voice shaky. "I know," he murmured, "but I had to try." They walked toward the car, passing the store manager, who gave a small, embarrassed nod. Evan returned it politely. By the parking lot, Judge Callahan stepped out of a side door. "Mr. Harper," he called. Evan turned. Callahan approached, hands in his coat pockets. "I meant what I said. I don't often see talent like yours." Evan shuffled awkwardly. "Thank you, sir. If you ever want guidance," the judge said, "or need someone to talk to, my office door is open. No appointments necessary." Evan's eyes widened. "Really?" Callahan smiled just slightly. "Really?" And something shifted then, not just in Evan, but in his mother watching and in the small town air itself. Because for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a foggy unknown. It felt possible.